All right, hey, my friends, and welcome to today's episode where we're going to talk about how diagnosis does not equal your destiny. And I want to talk about a way to conceptualize and perceive diagnosis that's maybe a healthier relationship than how a lot of people do. And also, ultimately understanding that you have the freedom to choose what happens moving forward. So, a lot of times, we encounter something in our life. So, if we're dealing with something like OCD, anxiety, right, chronic back pain, panic attacks, we'll seek help externally because we don't know what to do. We've tried working it out ourselves and it's not working, so we seek guidance externally, which as you should. What can happen though sometimes is we will come across certain people who have certain belief patterns, and they will take their belief patterns and project them onto us because it's their current conceptualization and their current belief patterns, and they believe that it's 100% true. So we will adopt what they say as truth for us, never questioning, really anything in between that. And we're very programmed to do this from an early age, right? So, we're always taught, like, make sure that your doctor, right, outside of you tells you that you're healthy, right? And that's what you trust more than your own intuitive sense, your own belief, your own power of belief, the healing presence within your body, right? Like, always trust externally first, primarily. And there's nothing, again, wrong with getting external opinions. I want to be very clear about that. And external feedback, external guidance, and being able to take that and use your intuition, dissect it, and ultimately come up with a path for yourself. But what happens with diagnoses sometimes is we then adopt a certain parameter of beliefs that go with that diagnosis. So let's take OCD for an example. What happened in my life was that I all of a sudden, seemingly, started having this barrage of intrusive thoughts, high levels of anxiety and panic. And the more I resisted that, the more I fought against it, the worse it seemingly got, right? And began to spiral and so on and so forth. So I sought help, right? I was like, I don't know what's going on. I need help. Now, I was misdiagnosed several times along the way. And then eventually, met someone who was like, hey, I think you have OCD. So naturally, go and Google it or you research it or whatever, and then it comes up with all these other beliefs that go with that. So people would say things like, oh, this is going to be a chronic condition. You're going to have this forever. You're just made up that way. It's your brain wiring, yada, 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 right? And I used to believe that. I used to believe that because someone told me this is what I was experiencing and the symptoms matched it, that then the prognosis and the diagnosis was just reality. I've since let that go, but that was real for me at the time because that was how I worked. I worked externally and would allow beliefs to persuade me, even if I intuitively knew that that probably wasn't like true or what I actually believed internally. And this is the thing: is our belief underneath everything is our greatest freedom, is our greatest power. What we believe, what we choose to believe. And a lot of times we will adopt beliefs simply based off a diagnosis because the beliefs are just attached to that diagnosis. So, for instance, OCD being chronic. Well, the reality is it's not. I don't believe that. I don't have OCD anymore, right? OCD is a spectrum within the realm of fear, right? When you learn to confront and transcend fear, that that that's it. You know what I mean? Like, there's not much more to the story of that. We do this with other emotions, right? If someone's really angry about something, we know that they can transcend anger and forgive and move on. But we teach people that if you're dealing with fear, that, oh, it's this chronic thing. Well, if you continue to respond and resist and react to fear the same way again and again and again and again, well, you're going to have a perpetuating experience, right? Because you're not changing, right? To transcend something like OCD, you have to let go of first this idea that it's this chronic disease that you have, and really that it's fear at the end of it. That's what you're experiencing, is fear. Fear surfacing in your body and nervous system, your mind's reacting to it, it's creating all these thoughts. When you do compulsions, the loop creates, and as the loop spins, the disorder in your life grows. And so it's not that the disorder is the thoughts or feelings. The disorder is the loop that forms that then slowly takes over your life. Now, when you move into the idea of a diagnosis is great for helping you understand what you're currently experiencing. But a diagnosis has nothing to do with your destiny or destination, right? Your destination is ultimately that's the starting point. Now you have information, and now you get to decide what to do. The worst thing you can do is when you get a diagnosis is allow someone to tell you what's possible for you. Because all that person can tell you is their limited construct of what they currently believe based off their own limited perceptions, abilities, and resources. That's all someone can tell you. Because when you look at almost any illness or disease or problem that someone has encountered, there's been someone that's overcome it. So when someone, again, has a financial, situation in their life that they can come up, they have to declare bankruptcy. A lot of people will just never recover from it because they are told, like, oh yeah, once you declare bankruptcy, it's like this. And then you look at people who declare bankruptcy multiple times in their life, and they're like, it's just what I had to do at that moment. The thing is there's nothing wrong with a diagnosis because it's great information, and then it can put you on a trajectory to start implementing tools or learn about tools that could help, or resources that can help you with whatever it is you're experiencing. Where people go wrong is they adopt all the beliefs that other people stack on that diagnosis. And that's what I did for a while. And even intuitively at the time, I knew it was wrong to accept this idea that this was this chronic thing that you're going to have forever. It never felt true to me. And it wasn't until I got the courage to actually lean into that truth that I knew what was within me that things really turned around. So if you've received this diagnosis or something similar, panic attacks, anxiety, whatever, first ask yourself, okay, if someone's told you that this is chronic, what that generally means, in my opinion, is that person doesn't know how to help you, right? Because if someone's just telling you that, they're really saying I really don't know how to help you get out of this. And instead of actually admitting that, their pride prevents them from doing that. And so they just jump to this idea that this is chronic, you're going to have this forever, you can manage it, and that's just how it is. Because that's their experience that they've had again and again and again, so they just assume that it's true. And maybe there are things like that in the world, but OCD is certainly not one of them, okay? And if someone is saying that to you, what they're really communicating is hey, look, I don't know how to do this. That's all. It's not that they're bad or that's bad or anything like that. That's what they're saying to you. Because fear itself is an emotion. The resistance to fear, the resistance to the intrusive thoughts that accompany fear that happen when you're in that field, the resistance drive compulsive behaviors. Compulsive behaviors suppress and reinforce and then create these loops. OCD, to transcend OCD, you have to stop operating from the paradigm that you're currently in of the thoughts and feelings are the disorder, because if you operate from that paradigm and your people that are helping you operate from that paradigm, you're always going to go back to measuring success incorrectly and, more importantly, doing things to try to eliminate the symptoms as opposed to transcend the loop itself and to transcend fear itself. And it's so important that if you've ever been diagnosed with something, that the number one power that you have with any diagnosis or any situation that you have, all a diagnosis is in that moment, this is what we're assessing is currently happening. That's it. You then have to let go of all prognosis that someone tries to put on, all beliefs, and you have to decide that ultimately you have the power within you to determine your own beliefs about your destiny at that point. That power is within you. Don't ever let someone take that from you. Don't ever outsource that to someone else. Unless those beliefs feel perfectly in alignment with you and you feel good about the beliefs themselves, then that's what you would accept. And the only people that you should ever work with are people that are in alignment with your, with your long-term belief structures. Because if you have conflicts on that, there's always just going to be a conflict in the paradigms that you're operating from. So, diagnosis. does not equal destiny. And that's the message that I want to communicate to you today. It's a message that I hope you receive, and that's the message I hope you embody. And with that, wishing you a great day and a great week. Look forward to seeing you soon. Hey there, thanks so much for watching that episode. If you found it helpful, we have some links to some other episodes that we think you might like as well. And if you're looking for help on your journey to recovery from fear, stress, and anxiety, either check out the links in the notes or head over to restoredminds.com. Thank you, and talk to you soon.